My name is Oshifesolu Larry. I'm a mechanic. Welcome to Exxon F1, also known as from Lawon, Colombo, Africa. We've come to the middle of the season and there are lots of news flying around. But today, we are going to be talking about what has happened this season so far. How has the drivers fared? How have they performed? How has the teams performed? And what we think would happen in the second part of the season. But first, click the subscribe button, like, share, comment. And I've always told you, by the time the second part of the season kicks in, which means from the first video ahead of Netherlands GP, we'll be having quiz in any of the videos and there will be prizes to be won, in which we'll tell you at the beginning of the video the prize to be won. The season so far. The first race was in Bahrain. We had two back-to-back races in the Gulf on the 5th of March 2023, in which Max Verstappen won the race over, as in beautifully 11 seconds away from his teammate, who was his nearest rival, beating him hands down. And the two of them were a lot of times away from the next person. Third was Alonso. Alonso came in 38 seconds later after Verstappen had finished. 27 seconds later, Sergio Perez. And since that time, we already know that it is a pure dominance for Red Bull. It's going to be another dominating season for them. It will be hard for them to make mistakes because they have a dominant car. Now, who will now be the runners-up? Now, at that time, we're thinking, wow, what a good job Aston Martin have done. Beautiful job they've done. They've really improved. Now, their car is so fast, they're second, with Alonso coming third, and the injured Lance Stroll coming sixth with his injury. That was powerful. That was beautiful. It was a race to remember for them because it shows they've really developed, and in the championship, they're a team to reckon with. Then the Ferrari, still with their woes and their mistakes. Carlos Sainz coming fourth and Lewis Hamilton coming fifth. But at that point, Mercedes had already known they are out of the season with a big failure machine they've brought. The Ferrari were still having hope because it looks as if they are doing a good job and they will do a good job in the season. Maybe just the way the season started, But it had already dawned on us that it's not the way the season started, though. It is just the reality of where they are. Ferrari, Charles Leclerc coming 19th in the race, Esteban Ocon of Alpine 18th, and Oscar Piastri of McLaren 20th, and his teammate Lando Norris coming 17th. They themselves, the McLaren, already knew it was a disaster to behold for them because Lando Norris came absolutely last in the race because Ocon was a DNF, Leclerc was a DNF, and Piastri was a DNF. Now, onto the Haas. The Haas team knew they had the season in their hands. They are likely to have a car that is fast. Alfa Romeo are winking and wincing up and down, looking at what their season will bring to them. And Alex Albon of the Williams, coming 10th. They know they have a handful of a season for them. Now to Saudi Arabia on the 19th of March. The Jeddah Corniche Street Circuit, and we can see Sergio Perez starting on pole and finishing first. Max Verstappen starting 15th and finishing second. From the first race, we knew that Red Bull is a machine. Alonso coming third, he started second. George Russell started third, he came in fourth, and Lewis Hamilton started seventh. He came in fifth. Then the Ferrari. Oh my God. The Ferrari of Carlos Sainz started fourth, finished behind Lewis Hamilton, and Leclerc started 12th, finishing 7th. Now, the distance between them. The distance between Verstappen and his teammate Sergio Perez was just 5 seconds. They were flying. You can see the distance. He started 15th, and by the 4th lap, he was already in the top 10. And by the 10th lap, he was right behind his teammate. And they were racing. Compared to what happened towards the end of the season, But Sergio Perez came first. They were both sharing points, and it means the 50 laps of the race, the two Red Bulls were first and second in the championship, with Max Verstappen leading the championship about a point ahead of his teammate. Alonso third, finishing the race 15 seconds behind Max Verstappen, and George Russell finishing 5 seconds behind Alonso. We already knew the Mercedes are not in the championship this season, but the Red Bull, they are in their own league, and Alonso driving beautifully for the Aston Martin, leading that team from a beautiful direction. I can say that, from a beautiful direction. And the Ferraris, let me keep thinking. they are still dreaming in a wonderland because they are still confused. But the Alpine came in 8th and 9th in that race. And the Alpine really knows that they have a long way to go in the season. They start planning their updates right from that race, right from Saudi Arabia. Now, Oscar Piastri finished 15th. He started 8th. Lando Norris started 19th and finished 17th. The Williams DNF, Lance Stroll DNF. Now, we are looking at where we are. And these teams are already looking at where they are in the race. How far, how close, how good they could be. Wow. On to the next one. April 2nd, we were in Australia at the Melbourne Grand Prix circuit, with Max Verstappen starting on pole and finishing the race in first position, and Lewis Hamilton starting third and finishing the race in second position. That was his first podium for the year, about 1/10 behind the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, and Fernando Alonso finishing third with about 7/10 away from Lewis Hamilton. That was one of the closest races of the season, and the whole race spanned and lasted for 2 hours 38 seconds 3/10. But what happened in the race? There was rain, there were accidents, a whole lot of shenanigans. That was the race in which Carlos Sainz was given a 5-second penalty for causing collision, and that was the race that birthed the first point for the McLaren in the season. The 2 McLaren were in the points, the 2 Red Bull were in the points, 1 Mercedes was in the points, the other was out. Charles Leclerc was out. Now, only 12 drivers finished. Yeah, there were 4 red flags in that race, but Max Verstappen dominated the race. The next race was meant to be in China, but that China race was skipped due to 1, coronavirus, and I think their involvement in Russia, whatever, was skipped. We moved to Azerbaijan, another street race, another street circuit, in which we know Sergio Perez thrives. He loves, he enjoys. Sergio Perez started third, finished the race first. Yes, that was also the first sprint race of the season. The first sprint race of the season. Max Verstappen and George Russell had their collision in the sprint race, but in the main race, George Russell was nowhere to be found. The Mercedes were just outpaced. Lewis Hamilton started 5th, he ended 6th. George Russell started 11th and he ended the race 8th. Now, in that race, the domination of the Red Bull shows again. It was a 51-lap race that lasted a hour and 32 minutes. Verstappen was just 2 seconds behind his teammates, and that track had one of the longest straight lines of the season. The Red Bull were dominant. That was where we knew the Red Bull without the rear wings open, as in without the DRS, all other cars are just playing. Well, Charles Leclerc finished the race 21 seconds behind Perez, 19 seconds behind Verstappen. Alonso was just barely a second behind Leclerc. Now that shows you the rest of the pack where they are. The next race of the season was in Miami, with Max Verstappen winning the race. He started 9th on the grid. Sergio Perez started 1st on the grid. He finished the race 2nd. His teammate Verstappen finished the race 1st. That was the first race in which I knew it's a plan for Max Verstappen to win his 3rd championship, not for Perez to win a championship. Which means the 2 drivers are not given the right to have the same machinery, to compete in the same machinery, and to win races free and fair. Because we saw a lot of play and the play, or whatever play, in the Red Bull tactics. In that race, Russell came 4th from 6th, Alonso came 3rd from 2nd, Carlos Sainz came 5th, Hamilton came 6th, Leclerc 7th from 7th. The wonderful Ferraris. The Alpines came into the point, did their best, coming 8th and 9th. The other teams were just around. Around that time, the McLaren started real work on their upgrade. They are just like, until we bring an upgrade, nothing to do. So they were just featuring in the races. From Miami to Emilia-Romagna, in which we missed because of the heavy rain that fell and disrupted the race and destroyed the city of Emilia-Romagna in Italy, and the race was cancelled. But the following week, we moved to Monaco for the Monaco GP, and the Monaco GP was a race with Verstappen starting on pole and finishing 1st in the 78th lap race. Alonso starting 2nd and finishing 2nd. Alonso had 2 pit stops in that race. Verstappen had 1 pit stop. Hamilton had 2 pit stops. He finished 4th. Ocon finished third. Lewis Hamilton chased him till the end of the race until he knew he could not chase him again, and he had to add a pit stop to go for the fastest lap in the race. Russell came 5th from 8th. The Ferraris came 6th and 8th. The Alpine of Gasly came 7th. We know that track is one of the most difficult tracks on the F1 calendar. It's very difficult to overtake. But in that race, there were overtakes. Because prior to that week, 2 weeks before, there was a Formula E race in which there were so many overtakes. There were so many overtakes, and that was it. But in that race, the two McLaren came into the point, 9th and 10th, for Norris and Oscar Piastri. That was one of their best races in the season. As at that time, the race was mad with rain, but the rain was not as much as the 2022 rain. That was for the Monaco Grand Prix. Then we moved to Spain on the 4th of June 2023. Verstappen started pole. He ended 1st. Lewis Hamilton started 4th and ended the race 2nd. In Barcelona, with George Russell starting 12th and ending the race 3rd. Sergio Perez started 11th. He finished the race 4th. Carlos Sainz started 2nd and ended the race 5th. Lance Stroll 6th. Alonso 7th because he started the race 8th. He had his struggles in the race. The race was a 2 pit stop race. So a 66 lap race. Max Verstappen getting a bonus point for the fastest lap in the race. Now, Lewis Hamilton ended the race 24 seconds behind Max Verstappen in a 66 lap race. That is like about 4/10 per lap in that race. That is how fast the Red Bull were. The Alfa Romeo got into the point with Zhou Guanyu coming 9th, Gasly 10th. The McLaren again back to the basics. They were back to their normal position because they know they are not yet in for the race. But we can see from when Max Verstappen took up his reins and started winning all the races and making sure his teammate Sergio Perez was nowhere to be found. In Canada, 18th of June, Max Verstappen started pole, ended the race in the top position. Alonso started 2nd, finished the race 2nd. Hamilton started 3rd, finished the race 3rd. Leclerc 10th, finished 4th. Perez started 12th, finished 6th. Carlos Sainz started 11th, finished 5th. Now, at that point, we started seeing a lot of mistakes Sergio Perez was making. He was making mistakes upon mistakes. He had a lot of mistakes in the season, but that was his turning point for mistakes. In that race, we had George Russell retired because his car caught fire. He retired on lap 53. We moved straight to Austria. That is the home race of the Red Bull. We knew they were going to shine because it is their home race. It was a perfect domination for them, with Max Verstappen starting on pole and ending the race in 1st position. Charles Leclerc 2nd, ended the race 2nd. Sergio Perez started the race 15th. Through his mysterious mistakes again, ended the race 3rd. Lando Norris started 4th, ended 4th. We thought it was a resurgence for the McLaren, but no, they were just lucky. Fernando Alonso started 7th, ended the race 5th. Carlos Sainz started 3rd, finished the race 6th. George Russell started 11th, finished the race 7th. Lewis Hamilton started 5th, finished the race 8th. Now, at this point, it was getting really clear that Max Verstappen is going to run away with the championship because he was far ahead of his teammates, winning the bonus point in the race and in some races around it. In the 71 lap race, Max Verstappen had 4 pit stops, while most of the other teams had 3 pit stops. Their domination was just out in a league for everyone to see. Now from there, that was the first race the McLaren brought their upgrade. We start seeing signs that they are in for a championship because the upgrade was only on Lando Norris's car, not on his teammate Oscar Piastri's car. And we saw what the upgrade did, how they performed, and what they are learning. And at that point, we started seeing a decline in what the Aston Martin really have brought. They brought some upgrade that didn't work for them, and that was the turning point of their downslope. Now, moving to the Silverstone in UK, that was where the two McLaren were wearing the same upgrade and they really showed their domination. They really told us that upgrade they've waited for, it was the main deal. With Max Verstappen dominating, started pole. He ended the race in the 1st position. Lando Norris started 2nd, with his teammates starting right behind him in 3rd. Lewis Hamilton starting 7th. George Russell starting 6th. And Lewis Hamilton ending the race 3rd and George Russell 5th. Oscar Piastri started 3rd. He ended the race 4th. Alonso started 9th, ended the race 7th. And the breezy, crazy, mistakenly Sergio Perez kept on making his own beautiful mistake. He kept on with his beautiful mistakes and he started 15th. He had a lot of disasters in qualifying this season. and those disasters were just haunting him. He ended 6th in the race, but due to the yellow flag and the compactness of the race at some point in the race, we did not really see a total domination from the Red Bull. They were just 3 seconds ahead of Lando Norris because the race was restarted 7 laps to the end of the race. Lando Norris was unable to jump Max Verstappen, but he showed his dominance. Hamilton was able to jump Piastri, and that was it for him. He gave a good account of himself in the race. The decline for the Aston Martin, the decline for the Ferrari, they started showing. The Williams started showing sign of their great straight line speed, with the McLaren really dominating and showing how good they are. Moving to Hungary, we were so hungry for the race, and we got there. Max Verstappen started 2nd, he finished the race 1st. Lando Norris with his upgrade started 3rd, he ended the race 2nd. Perez with another mistake started 9th, he ended the race 3rd. Hamilton started on pole. That was his first pole position for the year, and that was his first pole position in about 15 months. Yeah, in over 15 months, about 17 months since Abu Dhabi 2021. In the 70-lap race in Hungary, Oscar Piastri started 4th, he ended the race 5th. But the McLaren started showing they have a good car to race with. George Russell started 18th, ended the race 6th. But the decline in the Ferraris kept on showing. The decline in the Aston Martin was more pronounced. So through the race, we saw some team rose to the challenge, while some team flop. On to the last race of the mid-season, which was the Belgian race, the Belgian Grand Prix, which was the home race for Max Verstappen because he was given birth to in Belgium. They circuit the Spa-Francorchamps. He never disappointed his fans. He was 22 seconds ahead of his teammates, which shows the upgrade they brought in Hungary is working perfectly. Charles Leclerc finished 3rd. He started on pole. Lewis Hamilton started 3rd. He finished 4th with the fastest lap of the race. Perez finished 2nd in a race that panned 44 laps. Alonso 5th. Russell 6th. But you can still see the domination of the Red Bull and how powerful they are. Now the next race will be in Holland, Netherlands. It's another home race for Max Verstappen. Now, this home race for Max Verstappen, how is it going to pan out? We already know he's going to win the race. But what have we learned all through the season? We've learned that the Mercedes, from their upgrade in Monaco, in which they changed their concept, they've had a better car. They've given their all. They've had a better racing. And it has been a good racing season for them since then. Because right now, they have closed in on the Aston Martin in the Drivers' Championship with Lewis Hamilton 4th and a point behind Fernando Alonso. But in the Constructors' Championship, they are way ahead of the Aston Martin. They are about 49 points ahead of the Aston Martin. While the Red Bull are 256 points ahead of the Mercedes. The Ferrari too are closing in on the Aston Martin. They are just 5 points behind them. Like I said, the McLaren are now the second best team presently in F1, while the Red Bull are the best team. The Mercedes are the third best team. The Ferrari and the Aston Martin, those ones should go and sort themselves out. One is 4th, one is 5th. Well, the Alpine are the 6th best team. The Williams, to me, are the 7th best team. They are showing signs that they are like 5th or 6th, but they are the 7th best team. And with more upgrades coming, is a problem for the lower tipo or the lower part of the championship this season. And with Mercedes still bringing more upgrades, we think and we believe they might end the season the second best team going into next year. But coming into next year, it will be a very, very tight, difficult, wonderful and strong race for all the teams going against Red Bull. The cost cap saga is still coming. We don't know those teams that have broken the cost cap, technical and financial play, but we would know them and we will see FIA will just pat them on the cheeks and say, oh, you've done well like Red Bull last year. Come into the glory of your wonders. Let's see what will happen, but it has been a wonderful season with so many dull races because of the Red Bull dominance. Verstappen winning out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 races. Verstappen had won 9 races. His teammate, Sergio Perez, only 2 races. The only race they've not won is the one that we've now run. And I think believing the rest of the season will be much more interesting. Let's see what happens. With the cost cap effect on the Red Bull, there has not been an effect on them. They've been dominant, powerful, and winning. Thank you for joining our podcast. We love you. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. Like, comment, share. Let's know what you feel. We love you. Cheers. We have a new friend in the house. We are in Nigeria here, West Africa. He provides internet for us. They provide the best internet around the mainland, and I know they are still moving to the highland and they are moving all around Nigeria. But for you to get internet on the mainland, contact Fibrad Telecom Limited. They get you sorted out ASAP. The best cable internet on the mainland, fiber, I think they get sorted out. We talk much about them in the course of some of our videos, but contact them. They get sorted out. We love you. If you're a builder, if you're an art collector, if you have a showroom, Rated is the best place to get the artworks you need for your new buildings, for your art collections, for your showroom, for your exhibition. Rated Art have one of the best murals, mosaic works, and different art patterns in Nigeria presently. And it's somebody that you can communicate with, talks to you, you tell him what you want, and he will bring the reality out for you. To contact Rated Art, his number is right up here, and you can also go on social media links that are pasted right up here to check out some of his works. Thank you. Teams Gadget is for those of you that cannot easily go to the market to get your phones, your laptops, your accessories. Just place a call through. His phone number is there. It gets you the best. It's your shop plug to get you the best phones, accessories, laptops, games, and other accessories for your computer gaming experience. Contact Teams Gadget and you get them for you.